Okay, so I want to share a story about when I started sleeping outside. I had just fallen off the wagon. I had a year sobriety. The only thing I was using, I didn't even have Red Bulls or Advils, nothing. I had coffee and cigarettes for a year, going from heavily drinking whiskey and using tons of Adderall, whatever I could get my hands on, really. Coke. Certain drugs I didn't really care for as much as others. I wanted a certain type of high. But anyways, so it took me a year even to, this is a sidetrack story, but it took me a year to even admit to myself that I had fallen off the wagon. Like, I was like, no. Like, I made it about everybody else. I was like, all the people I'm getting sober for aren't sober, and they're hypocrites, and I made it about them. But then I realized that I actually like being, I just outgrew the lifestyle. That's kind of what happened. So, after I'd fallen off the wagon, I got into this fight, and I hurt both of my feet. Ended up having tendonitis in them because I was walking around with a heavy bag with what started out as just one broken foot and ankle, or at least heavily sprained. It was like the size of like 2 feet, 2 ankles. And I just was in this weird situation, and I found myself outside, sleeping outside. I would rather have slept outside with broken feet and a bag on my back than be wherever I was. So this particular night, I had to start finding like places that I could sleep. And I went behind this building, and I fell asleep in this like fetal position. So I'll show you. Let's see here. So I put myself in this position. See if the camera will stay. If it doesn't, I apologize, but I needed to stay warm. So I started sleeping like this, and I had myself covered up, right? And all of a sudden, the next thing I knew, like, I got a little bit of rest. Somebody was at my side and kicked me and was standing. I looked up at them. But because of the position that I was sleeping in, my legs had lost all movement. Like, the blood circulation had cut off to my legs, and I had no feeling in my legs. And so I couldn't really move. And somehow I ended up standing up against the wall, and this wall, and this chick was like, "You're in my spot and you have my bag." And I was like, oh my god, okay. And I didn't know what to do, and I just started barking at her. And she looked at me, and her head turned, and it threw her off just enough for my legs to gain blood again in them. And I grabbed my bag and I took off. She was like, "Sorry about your stuff." It could have very well been her spot, but it definitely wasn't her stuff. But I just think it's a funny story. That's the way I defended myself, was just barking at her. And it worked. It threw her off. People are funny. It's funny what happens in the night. Actually, I want to share one other story too. I was sleeping out in front of the library. I had to stop moving at some points because my feet were hurt. And this started in like the beginning of August. And by the next January, I had a baby in me, and I was still sleeping outside. And my foot developed this because of the weight and all of the limping. It developed. Both my feet got kind of messed up. But I was sleeping out in front of this library once, and a cop and a woman came up to me, and I thought that they were gonna get me in trouble or tell me to leave. But they just ended up like coming back with like crutches, and gave me a foot brace, and and it helped me, and they were nice to me. And then they moved down. There was another person like sleeping over, and they moved down and helped that man. But I was definitely expecting them to be like, oh, you can't have a blanket on you out here. But they did not say that. There was another night that I can think of where a person came out of their house and put a blanket on top of me and the person that I was sleeping with. And they left us like a hot drink. People are nice. People can be really nice, actually. There's one spot that I found that people would like leave me, even left me food. They didn't mess with me. But it's because people have to get rest, you know? Like basic things like rest, pissing, eating, washing. Like most, you know, unless you're like on a mission to not do those things, you know, most people need that kind of basic privacy, you know, a sense of just like safety, like you know, nope, I don't know, just weird. So even though I got fucked with, there's also other times, more times than not, that people were actually, things turned out better than not. Alright. Peace. Thank you for watching.